Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today I'm bringing you guys an update to my Ghostrick deck profile. This is going to be a pure Ghostrick build and more or less focusing on basically all of the aspects of the deck except for the mill aspect. But we are playing one copy of Skeleton in the main deck, but really this deck is just focusing on just doing really cool broken effects. The new support for this deck was actually really solid. So I've been having a lot of fun messing around with this, and I'm really happy with how the profile turned out. So if you guys do enjoy this profile, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you guys haven't already, give it a like, and also consider checking out the Patreon because we do have a couple more days until the end of this month, and the giveaway is going to end for the Ghost from the Past giveaway. But we did get new support back in Battle of Chaos for this with the Ghostrick Siren and a few other cards. So this is the new and only level 4 Ghostrick card. So with this card, with all of the Ghostricks, they cannot be normal summoned or set, just so you know, unless you control a Ghostrick monster, or sorry, so you have to set them, sorry. But with this, with the Siren, when this card gets flipped face up, you are able to mill the top 2 cards of your deck, and then if there was a Ghostrick card among them, you're able to either add a Ghostrick spell or trap from your deck to your hand, or change one of your opponent's effect monsters to face down defense position. So, really nice just to be able to sort of go with whatever effect you're needing at the moment. I generally use this like 4 out of 5 times to be able to search for a spell or trap, but it does come up to be able to Book of Moon one of your opponent's monsters. It is really cool to be able to get that effect off. Overall, this card is really nice for the deck, but you only really need to play it as a 2 of, because you're really not going to be using this for XZ summoning or anything like that very often. So really, it's just a good 2 of. We are playing then 3 copies of the Jiangshi. Jiangshi is probably the best monster in the deck because it always gets you into your other monsters. So when this card gets flipped face up, you count the number of Ghostrick monsters that you control, and then from among them, you're able to basically get a monster with the level of whatever you reveal. So if you do end up having 4 of your Ghostricks on the field when you flip the Jiangshi, then you're able to search for your Siren or anything below that. So it is nice, you know, even if this card gets attacked into, it does end up getting flipped up, and then you're able to search for one of the level 1s, and you can go for like a Mary play or something like that, which is really good. 1 copy of Mummy. I wanted to play this at 2, but we are playing actually a lot of ways to bring stuff back from the graveyard. So I thought 1 copy of Mummy was okay, but this card is really nice for being able to spam the board. 1 copy of Ghostrick Stein. Stein is kind of like a replacement for a 3rd Siren, because with this card, when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you're able to get 1 spell or trap from your deck to your hand without having to do the mill or anything. Really, with playing Siren nowadays, you could end up cutting the Stein, but I still like playing the 1 copy of him. For some more battle damage, we do have 1 copy of Ghostrick Ghoul. Not a lot of people play him in their list, but he is a nice out to like big cards like Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and stuff like that. That have to get like destroyed by battle. Obviously, Dragoon has other ways you can destroy it, but for the purposes of this deck, sometimes just running over in battle is one of the best plays. So with the Ghostrick Ghoul, he basically can target one of your Ghostricks and make it so that it gains the attack of all of your other Ghostricks on the field. So if you have like Ghoul, Mummy, and Stein, it would end up having, what is that, 27, 4,200 attacks. You could run over a Dragoon that has already done like a negate and pop. So it is really nice to be able to use Ghoul to sort of run over some big things. The only downside is that other Ghostricks can't attack while after you use that effect, but it is still really nice to have that option. Then we have our 1 copy of Skeleton. So this is 1 card that you could cut if you do want to go for just a pure Ghostrick beatdown build. But overall, I really like playing the 1 copy of Skeleton. This is a 43 card build just because we are playing the Siren, which does kind of mill us. And so we are sort of allowing ourselves to have some extra cards. Also, this deck is fairly consistent, and you're just trying to get into stuff like your field spell, like Parade, and your Jiangshi. Once you get Jiangshi out, along with Parade, then you can just sort of search for any card that you ever need in the deck. So you really, overall, it's fine playing all of these little 1-ofs because you're going to find them when you need them. So I like playing the 1 copy of Skeleton. There are so many engines that are going around nowadays. So if your opponent is playing like the Adventure Token engine, if they're playing DPE, stuff like that, you can hit that engine potentially with Skeleton and be able to sort of take some things down. So if your opponent is going on their first turn and you ended up getting Skeleton in your opening, you could flip Skeleton, possibly mill like 2 or 3 cards from the top of their deck. And if you end up hitting one of those, like those engine pieces, like you hit the Destiny Hero Celestial, then all of a sudden they have like 3 other dead cards in their deck, which is actually really, really cool. Or again, if you hit that adventure token engine and you hit the Wandering Griffin Rider or something like that, it is really cool. Or just if you end up hitting, yeah, just a whole bunch of other little engine things that it could end up potentially hitting. Next, I have an apology to say to Ghostrick Fairy, because this card is actually really, really nuts. When this card came out last year or 2 years ago in Ignition Assault, I really didn't give it like the time of day that it deserved, but honestly, this card is really good because when it gets flipped face up, you're able to target one Ghostrick card in your graveyard, and then set that card onto the field. The card ends up getting banished when it leaves the field, but if you do end up bringing something back like a monster, there's a lot of times where I try to bring back my Mummy. That's why I cut Mummy down to 1, because we do have the Ghostrick Fairy. So you can set Mummy back to your field, and then like your next turn when you flip it face up, then you're able to, you know, you're able to basically use its effects so that you can normal summon 2 times in your turn. And then if you use it for the XZ summoning of something like your Alucard, then it's considered basically a new card and it doesn't end up getting banished. You can end up putting it back in the graveyard and you can just kind of keep looping it with Fairy. So it is really, really nice. But then also with this card, after that card gets set, you're able to then change your opponent's face-up monsters to face-down defense position up to the number of set cards that you control. So if you do have some set traps on the field as well, then you're able to actually flip down more of your opponent's stuff. And then we are playing the Ghostrick Knight in this deck, so we are kind of focusing on setting our opponent's monsters face down and just trying to stop them from link summoning and stuff like that. Then we have our 2 copies of Doll. Doll is also really nice for setting your opponent's stuff face down, because with this card, when it gets flipped face up, during the end phase of this turn, after it gets flipped face up, you're able to change all of the face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position, and then summon a Ghostrick monster from your deck in face-down defense position, whose level is less than or equal to the number of monsters flipped face down. So kind of like how Jiangshi needs the number of Ghostricks on the field to get a level, it's basically the same thing with Doll. With however many cards or monsters get sent face down, then you're able to special summon a monster with that level or less. So it is really nice to be able to use Doll to be able to go into a Jiangshi as long as you're able to flip down 3 monsters. So really cool. And the reason why I just wanted to play the ratios of 2 and 2 is because we were playing 2 copies of So Cute Boss in the extra deck, so it was really important to make sure that I play 2 of each, but they are really good in their own right, that they make the merit to play each other at 2. So then we're going on into our level 1s. We have our 3 copies of Ghostrick Lantern. Lantern's really nice just to be able to help save your butt if your opponent's going to attack into some big stuff. The only problem is you need to make sure that you have enough space on your field, because if you end up having a full board where you don't have any extra monster zones, then your opponent attacks into you, you actually can't activate Lantern because it has to be able to special summon itself out onto the field. 3 copies of Mary. Mary is just so good because if you end up having sort of a bad hand and your opponent ends up attacking into you, if you have a Mary, then you're able to basically pitch Mary. Then you get to special summon 1 Ghostrick monster from your deck. So you can basically go for anything like Jiangshi, and then Jiangshi will help you get more advantage once your turn comes around. Or you can go into the Siren play, use Siren, and then that's going to help you to get into a spell or trap for some more protection. So that is also really cool. So a big play that I do nowadays is go for Mary, go for Siren, Siren mills, and then use Siren to pick up Parade, and then Parade kind of helps protect your stuff and help gain a lot more advantage. 2 copies of Ghostrick Spectre, really good card as well, just to help sort of draw through the deck a little bit more and help to just sort of mitigate your advantage when you lose some stuff. And then 1 copy of Jack Frost. Jack Frost is kind of like Lantern, not quite as good, but it's still nice to sort of play him for when it does come up, because with him, if your opponent declares a direct attack, you can change that monster to face down defense position, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. So again, it just sort of goes along with all of the plays where we're trying to flip our opponent's monsters face down. Then getting on into the new spell, Ghostrick Shot. This is the first Ghostrick spell that is not a field spell, which is really crazy. But basically, this card is Monster Reborn for a Ghostrick from your graveyard or your hand, which is really cool. So it is pretty versatile. So if you end up seeing this in your opening, it is a really nice starter, because because like I said, all of these cards need to have a face-up Ghostrick monster on the field to summon themselves. But if you can end up using like Ghostrick Shot to normal summon yourself a Mummy on your opening turn, so you summon Mummy, and then you basically end up getting yourself two more normal summons, which is, or you get your additional normal summon and you still have your original normal summon, so it is really, really cool. Then also this card, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target one of your Ghostrick XZ monsters and put it on as material. So if you're trying to just get an extra material on your rank 4, the Angel of Mischief, that is really cool if you're trying to go for the strategy where you get the alternate win condition. Or a really cool play that you can also do is that if you're playing double A Zeus, you can also use this to just put an extra material under something that you've gotten a material off of, and then you can end up getting like a 4 material Zeus, which is really cool. So we will get on then into the field spells. We have our 3 copies of Parade. This is sort of what helped kind of keep it at a 43 card build. I had it at 42. But I wanted to have that extra copy of Parade. So overall, I do really like the ratios, but having the 3 Parade makes it so that you can just start getting all of your advantage going. So like I said, if you can always like do Siren into Parade and then end up doing other shenanigans, is always really good. But if you just end up seeing Parade in your opening hand, then you're generally going to be doing really good in that matchup. Then we are also playing our 1 copy of Mansion and 1 copy of Museum, just for when the things come up when... you know, if Mansion is nice and you need to make sure that you're only taking half damage, or Museum is really good because it helps to flip all of the monsters face down, whatever attacked. So if your opponent has something that like you can't use your trap cards on to flip face down, you always have Museum to try to flip it face down, and then you have your Ghostrick Knight to keep it face down. And then the 1 Saki card that we are playing is 1 copy of Mystic Mine, because we do have so many ways to get into our field spells and stuff, and this deck is really field spell reliant. And we just need that sort of that grind game with this deck sometimes. The Mystic Mine is honestly so good, just to be able to make sure that we can sort of keep the tempo in our favor, and then like you can just get so much hand advantage with this deck and field advantage as long as your opponent is maybe summoning out a couple things. Mystic Mine is just so good in this deck. 1 copy of Twin Twisters, just so we have ways to out certain things. With all of the spell and traps that are in this deck, it's really crazy that there's no spell or trap way to destroy other spell and trap cards that your opponent has. So having 1 Twin Twisters in here is nice in case if your opponent does end up doing their own Mystic Mine shenanigans, or if they end up going for like a skill drain play. So really nice to just sort of have that in there as backup. Then we have our 3 copies of Ghostrick Scare, probably always going to be a staple 3 of in any Ghostrick deck because it is so good. Then getting on into 2 copies of the No Ghost Trick or Treat. This card is actually also really super duper good. Really crazy that they just printed this as a common, because this is basically infinite impermanence, which is really cool. So with this card, if you control a Ghostrick field spell, or a Ghostrick Link monster, which we did get a new Link monster back in Battle of Chaos, then you're basically able to use this to negate your opponent's monster's effect, just one of their opponent's monster's effects, and then it also makes it so that monster cannot attack, and then it ends up getting flipped into face-down defense position during the end phase. So this card is basically Book of Moon, Infinite Impermanence, and Fiendish Chain, or I guess it's just Fiendish Chain and Book of Moon all in one, which is really cool. But then the really cool thing, so this is called Trick or Treat. So it does end up giving your opponent an option to be able to pay 2,000 life points to basically set this card back face down, which also sort of makes it a little bit like Scrap Iron Scarecrow, which is kind of funny. So this card is really cool because it does end up putting your opponent on a 4-turn clock if they do want their monster effects to go through. So your opponent's at 8,000 life points. You activate Ghost Trick or Treat to be able to negate something, and then basically they choose to pay the 2,000 life points. It ends up getting set back down. Their effect goes through, but now they are at 6,000 life points, and you could essentially keep doing this until they end up getting down to a point where they can't pay for those life points anymore. So you basically can get this off like 3 times for the burn damage, and then you'll eventually have a negate going. But just 2 copies is really good because you can always bring it back from the graveyard with stuff like Alucard or Dullahan when they hit the graveyard, or just being able to search it with your Siren. Then we are going on into our 2 copies of Ghostrick Knight. I've talked about this a little bit, but the reason why we're playing so many cards that flip our opponent's cards face down is that this deck still just does not have a great out to link monsters and stuff. So you have your Ghost Trick or Treat to be able to negate big blow up, you know, like effect monsters like if your opponent's playing Access Code Talker and stuff like that, or Appaloosa. It's really nice to be able to deal with that. But you do have your Ghostrick Knight to be able to stop your opponent from even getting into those link monsters. So if you use your stuff like Ghostrick Scare, and all of your other things that flip your opponent's stuff face down, then you can end up just sort of having your opponent filled up with a board of main deck monsters, and then just use Ghostrick Knight to be able to flip all of them face down, and then they're stuck face down as long as you have a Ghostrick monster on the field. 1 copy of Vanish just to be able to protect our set stuff. 1 copy of Ghostrick Renovation because this card helps us to get into whatever field spell we need at the time, and it actually can help you go right into Mystic Mine. As long as you have a Ghostrick field spell on the field, you get to activate any field spell from your deck. It does not have to be a Ghostrick. 1 copy of Ghostrick Go Round. This is just another nice card that is able to help sort of set cards face down or flip cards face up. So I really like having it just for the versatility. If your opponent, like let's say that if you end up your board on a copy of Angel of Mischief, and that is your card that is keeping all of your opponent's stuff face down with the Ghostrick Knight, and then your opponent uses something like Book of Moon or something to set the Ghostrick Angel of Mischief back face down, you can always use Go Around to be able to flip Angel of Mischief or anything else back face up. Or if they end up using something that destroys the monster that's face up, and then they're like, hey, cool, I can flip all my cards face up again, then you use Ghostrick Go Around, flip something back face up, and now they are still locked. And then our 1 copy of Metaverse. I wanted to play this over Terraforming. That way, if our opponent does end up blowing up our field spell, then we're able to always use Metaverse to be able to like activate that Mystic Mine directly from deck and stuff like that. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this 43 card build. We'll get on into the extra deck now. But overall, I really like how this deck played out. With how many 1-ofs there are in this deck, it does end up playing hyper consistently, which is really good. Then we are playing our 2 copies of the Ghostrick Festival. This is the new Link monster, the first Link monster for Ghostricks that has ever came out. Really cool because with this card, you're able to actually link summon this card with a set card. So, like I said, if you open up with like Siren doesn't really do much if that's like your only good card. But you can always set Siren onto your field, and then you're able to just link it away to be able to go into your Ghostrick Festival, which is really cool. Then, as long as you have a field spell on the field, so generally if you're going into your Parade, so you have your Parade on the field, and then your opponent attacks into your Ghostrick Festival, you're able to get rid of this and then set any card, any of your Ghostrick cards face down. So you get rid of this, then you can set something like your Jiangshi out onto the field. Now your opponent's going to be attacking you directly with Parade. You can then go into your, you can search for your Mary, and then once you take that damage, then you can pitch your Mary, and then you can go for like a Siren play. Set your second Siren. Now during your next turn, you're going to be able to flip Siren, flip Jiangshi, and you're able to get off a ton of advantage off of that. So really the Link monster is really good, but it is just still nice to play as a 2-of. Then getting on into our last Link monster is just 1 copy of Nightmare Unicorn. I wanted to play something like Boral Sword Dragon or something, but I just could not find the space. I wanted to sort of focus on the XZs a little bit more. So we were playing 2 copies of Ghostrick Dullahan just to be able to sort of beat over other things. If we can't use it, like our Ghostrick Ghoul, if he's not doing enough, we always have Dullahan. Then we have our 2 copies of Ghostrick So Cute Boss. So with this card, not a lot of people know, but with this card, when you have another Ghostrick monster, your opponent cannot target this card for attacks. But there is a really cool thing that you can do. If you can go into both of these cards, then your opponent cannot attack you at all because you are locked, because they can't attack this card and they can't attack this card. So they can't do anything, which is really cool. And then also with this card, you can detach material in order to destroy one of your opponent's monsters. And then they cannot use that monster zone as long as you keep a Ghostrick monster face up on the field. So that's generally going to be your Link monster or an XZ monster, just trying to keep one monster face up anyways because of your Ghostrick Knight. So it overall works really well. Then 2 copies of our Alucard. So good because like Dullahan, with this with both of these cards, when they're sent to the graveyard, you're able to get a Ghostrick card back from your graveyard, so you can get a really necessary trap or like a Jiangshi back or a Lantern if you need to just sort of save your butt. And then also when you can detach material from this guy in order to destroy a set card on the field. So really nice to be able to destroy some spell traps, but again, I wanted to have that Twin Twisters in the main deck just in case if there's a face-up that we really need to deal with. Then we have our 2 copies of Ghostrick Angel of Mischief, alternate win condition, and this card can search for any spell or trap. Really solid. Then we're going to get on into the F-Zero package. So we have F-Zero Utopic Future and then the Utopic Draco Future. Really nice little package to put in here because we are playing so many XZs. Overall, you do not need to play these. I know that the Draco Future is pretty expensive, so if you want to drop it for more budget options, that is totally fine. One copy of Downward Magician then, and then one copy of Divine Arsenal AA Zeus to round out this 15-card extra deck. So I already alluded to this a little bit earlier, but we do have Downward Magician, and then we do have our copies of Ghostrick Shot. So what I was talking about earlier with this card is that basically if you go into Ghostrick Alucard, he's got his his normal 2 materials on there. So I've got my 2, we'll say, here we go, 2 level 3s underneath the Ghostrick Alucard. You use his effect earlier to detach a material, and now you destroy one of your opponent's set cards on the field. Now what you can do then is you can use Ghostrick Shot to be able to put one of your Ghostrick cards from your graveyard and attach it as material, so you can put that Jiangshi right back or any other card. Then use Downward Magician to go onto the Alucard in main phase 2, and then go into Zeus. That way you have a 4 material Zeus. So overall, having that downward is really nice in here, along with the Ghostrick Shot to use in tandem, just to be able to make sure that you can get a 4 material Zeus, which is like some of the most broken stuff ever in the game. But anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for this deck profile. Hopefully it didn't go on for too long, but there was just a lot to explain with all of this new support and stuff. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was a really fun deck to pick back up. This has always been one of my favorites. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you guys haven't already. And again, check out the Patreon if you guys want to get in for that giveaway for a free box of Ghosts from the Past. It is going to be basically a 1 in 5 chance to get a Ghost from the Past box, which is pretty darn good odds. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you guys next time. Peace.